Hello and welcome to the Gersnet Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast made for fans, by fans, and where the content is absolutely free. You join us tonight live as usual, but of course it's available throughout the week to download, and please get on social media and promote the pod. You can download it from all the usual streams after the show tonight. iTunes, Spotify, Acast, Stitcher, and so on. Obviously, still in lockdown, although restrictions are easing. Rangers back in action this week against Hamilton pre-season. We're going to go through that. We've got a lot of things to go through tonight. I'm your host, David Wren. Joining me tonight is Colin Armstrong and John Callum as we go through the latest news coming from Ibrox. Colin, how has your weekend been? I saw a picture of you in some questionable shots on Twitter this afternoon. So, climbing a hill today.
Questionable shots? Not questionable shots.
You're in your 40s.
Shocking part. Really, in my 40s and climbing hills that you would. I mean, you were lying in your own vomit this morning. I think. Well, you know what, David? After yesterday's shenanigans.
It wasn't that bad. I did have a few sherbets last night. Aye.
Yeah, meanwhile, captains of industry like myself are up climbing hills. I was up Demaya, I think it's called, in Stirling today. Me and my wife and my daughter were up there. So I'm not going to lie, I'm ruined. I'm totally ruined. It took a lot out of me. I came home and had a roast dinner, and I could have just went straight to my bed, to be honest with you. But I thought, no, I'll hang about and speak to David and John, because that will just make the weekend perfect.
Yeah. John, how's your weekend been? I trust that you're a fashion icon like yourself wouldn't wear a pair of grey joggy shorts.
Well, a fashion icon like myself wouldn't wear those shorts and then put it on the internet. That there's probably where myself and Colin would separate. But no, I'm known for wearing shorts in good weather, and I do not let anyone take photographs of me. So no, I've had a lovely weekend actually. The kind of change in how many people you can meet and where you can meet them has been quite good this weekend. In fact, we had some people over at the house on Friday night, and then we went up to Fife today. Went for a walk along the beach in Ely. It was great. I've got sunburn. But I rushed back to Glasgow for this, just so that you two wouldn't feel like I was ignoring you or anything like that. And the fact Frankie sent me a text at 6:30 reminding me had nothing to do with that. I would have made it anyway.
So it's good to have you back. And we, as I said at the top of the show, I mean, there's been a few bits and bobs happening this week. Obviously something that kind of certainly caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting it. The start of the week, the middle of the week. But obviously the club's gone through a sort of rebranding, which included a new badge. One of the most vocal critics of the new badge in the Gersnet WhatsApp group was Colin Armstrong. But I can understand a lot of people, the common sort of complaint seems to be it hasn't changed significantly. So what was the point in changing it at all? But Colin, what were your thoughts? I think probably the badge first of all, but obviously as well as the badge, it was a new website and so on. But what were your thoughts through the week when that was announced?
I kind of a bit like yourself, David, a wee bit surprised. I don't think anyone saw it coming, and I've always been the same when they do things like this. I just always think, why? Now, I suppose, I mean, they'll have people who know marketing and all that better than I do, and as you say, it's a bit of a rebrand, and I suppose it will serve a purpose. I mean, I've seen comments that it's to do with online and digital. This badge is easier to work with on apps and online and stuff like that. How true that is, I don't know, but I don't know. I just feel it's a wee chapter of your life closing when something that you've grown up with for the last sort of 30 years or whatever changes for a reason that you can't see. I mean, it's not that big a deal, I suppose. But when I did see it, I just thought, what's the point? And it looked a wee bit squint to me when I first seen it. There seemed to be more space at the top where it says Rangers than it does at the bottom. But I mean, that's probably just me. But I mean, it's not a huge deal. It's not going to affect my life in a big way. But I just kind of thought, well, why? But the club will know why. You know, as I said, there'll be reasons for it that we're not really given access to, and you know, within a couple of weeks, a few months, or whatever, it won't even be an issue. But I mean, I wasn't keen when they changed the the RFC logo as well, with the 5 stars and all that on it. I liked the sort of RFC crest that I grew up with. It was quite big, covered the chest. The one now, it looks like when I was growing up in the sort of early 80s, there used to be a very cheap version of the Rangers top with the sort of flappy collar for the early 80s. That wasn't the Umbro one. You just bought a sort of a version of the top and you ironed on a Rangers patch. And the crest now looks like that, in my opinion. It looks like that sort of iron-on badge. I just think it looks cheaper than the actual one that I grew up with. But, you know, the club know why they do these things. They'll speak to people in marketing and designers, and they'll know what's the right thing to do. But it feels like a wee bit of the team that I grew up with, you know, disappeared on the other day there when it changed.
I must admit, as I said to you on Wednesday, I think it does. It isn't a massive change, but it's quite subtle. And I think from a marketing point of view, obviously I don't work in marketing, but I'm in the same sort of sector. But you can certainly see why, you know, with the more emboldened Rangers on it at the top of the badge and stuff. Why they're going with that. John, what were your thoughts on it? Because obviously, as I said to Colin, but it did come with, you know, quite a lot of improvements to the website and things like that. And it's all about, you know, making the club a bit more savvy, I suppose, in the marketing and how we look to the general public as well as the Rangers fans themselves.
The changes to the website are long overdue. I haven't watched anything on the website, but I had a kind of poke around during the week when it changed, and you know, I think it's better. It's certainly better on a mobile device, and I think it's a better website. You know, so they've gone in and they've made those changes, and that was long overdue. And I suspect it's part of a kind of ongoing strategy where, you know, digital and the club's own digital. I mean, you know, it's been interesting. We're going off on a slight tangent, but it's been interesting watching how the club has dealt with the media, the broadcast media in particular, over the last 12 months, maybe even the last 6 months. And there's clearly the strategy seems to be taking as much of it in-house or working with people like Stevie, who's, you know, 4 lads who's on here, working with people like that. You know, more and more of that going on, in which case the club's own website and their social media channels, it's essential they have them running as smoothly and as perfectly as they can be. So the improvements to the website, long overdue. And I think, well, in my opinion, they are improvements. It's a better website. It looks to be easier to navigate. It looks to work better. So I'm all for that. In terms of the badge change, I mean, I think I'm older than both of you. Fairly certain I'm older than both of you. And yet, it's funny.
I'm fairly certain of that too, John, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I wasn't 100% sure what age David was, but I was pretty certain he was younger than you, which means he's definitely younger than me. So you know, I am the old curmudgeon here. Here's my thing with the badge. It didn't change enough. If you're going to change it, just change it. You know, just go for it. You're going to upset the Collins of this world if you tinker with it in any way whatsoever. So you might as well just do it completely. You know, that's your chance. Just change it completely. It doesn't matter. You're still going to upset the old guard. There's a great article in this month's When Saturday Comes. It's their 400th issue. And they've got, you know, I think also because of the time of year and the fact there's not a lot of football going on just now, they've got various different writers, and Taylor Parks has written an article in it. And he makes this great point about how there's 3 stages of football supporting. There's when you're young and you know, you're living for Saturday, you're looking forward to all things. And then there's that period in your kind of 20s to mid-30s where you're living the moment. And then after that, it's all about nostalgia. You're looking back at players and looking back at games and how things have changed. And it really struck a chord with me because I could relate to it 100%, you know, and I'm sorry, it's true. I mean, I am somebody who lives, particularly their football these days has lived far too much through nostalgia. So seeing the badge change from a marketing perspective, and I actually do work in marketing. From a marketing perspective, I understand why they've made the changes they've made. There may even be a business need for them to have made those changes. But, that aside, from a marketing perspective, it does work better. It's slightly clearer. Having the word Rangers at the top of the badge, these are fairly subtle changes, but I understand why they've made them. But in all honesty, I would have probably suggested they go far, far bolder and go for something completely different. Now, they might be planning that for the 150th anniversary, which is coming up fairly soon. So they may be planning something quite bold for then. So maybe this is, a subtle and smaller change just now. I think we've had 4 badges in our entire history. And, football clubs aren't normal businesses. You work in the press, David, don't you? So you understand, mastheads changing. It's a big deal. People have an emotional attachment to it. They get, their anger, their resentment to these things changing is far, far out of kilter with the reality of what's happened. And football badges are a bit like that. But I actually would have liked to see them, in the end, they need to, the change of a badge will annoy us older guys. It just will. Like changing anything annoys us older guys. So you might as well change it properly. You might as well just do something that's completely different. And let the younger guys, the next generation of fans, they will then grow up with that and they'll love that and they will relate to that. So that's probably my only criticism, is they didn't change it enough.
Yeah, I think my take on it, this full commercial side of things, is, in the press side of things as well, and the way we were conducting ourselves for years as a club was really frustrating for anyone that was looking at communication and the things that were coming out in the press and being leaked to the press. I think now starting to get our act together a wee bit, and we are making money again from commercial opportunities, which has probably not been done to the best extent over the past few years. And I think I completely get this, and I'm really relaxed about these sorts of things, because I do think there's method to whatever they're doing, and I think it's all about bringing as much money into the club as possible. And Colin, just on that, we've discussed this guy's role in the club over the past couple of months, but I mean, this is another bold move by James Bisgrove, who's obviously the head of commercial at Rangers. And it can only be a good thing that we do now have the people in place who, and that includes everyone from him to the new press guy, who by all accounts seems to be doing a decent job, and even Ross Wilson, in director of football role. But we seem to be starting to get the sort of best people in these roles again, which can only be a good thing.
Yeah, and I think he's both made a couple of good points there that tie in with that. I mean, first of all, I think the point that John made about the Crest is true, and that's probably how it's impacted in me. It's almost like it's invading on your identity and stuff like this change. You know what I mean? But you also made a good point, David, that you were quite comfortable about it, and we've got all these new people in position. Part of me started to think that there was two thoughts that came through my mind. First, there was all these rumours that we had to change it because it was rumoured that Mike Ashley still held the rights to the previous stuff. But I think you would have to take the club's word on this, with the Sports Direct stuff, and just say that that's not the case. Part of me is thinking that, given everything that's happened to Rangers over the last few years, and given the battering that we've taken in the press, the whole EBT stuff and everything that came with that, I hate referring to Rangers as a brand, because to me they're not a brand. To me they're a football club, and it runs deeper than that. But we're living in times when football clubs are brands, and you would have to say that ours was pretty toxic. Some of that was our own doing. I don't think the supporters help with our choice of songs at times. That doesn't help. That gives people like Graham Spears and a few others a big stick to beat us with. Obviously, there's the DBT stuff. The name of the club has been dragged through the mud over the last sort of 10 years. Maybe this is all part of a way of sort of cleansing the club, rebranding, new badge, to sort of just freshen things up a wee bit and try and put some of that stuff to bed and try and put a more positive light on the club, you know. And if you've got a sort of new badge that's not really new but is new, it's just a subtle change. Maybe that helps. Not so much with the locals, with the guys that go week in, week out, but in terms of projecting the brand further out, you know what I mean? Maybe stuff like this just helps cleanse the brand, because we are toxic, and as I said, I don't think the club is completely to blame for that. We've not helped ourselves at times, but plenty up here have went out their way to make Rangers toxic, and maybe all these wee subtle changes is our way of trying to change that, and trying to change how the club is viewed and how we're presented, and trying to put over a more sort of positive image of the club and that, you know, inverted commas brand.
I think that's a good point. Another thing I think as well, and John, I don't know if you agree with this, but we discuss this all the time, you know, how the outside world sees the club, and it is important to an extent, but there's also an argument that in Scotland, you know, it wouldn't matter what we did, we would still have the same people on social media that are trolling our accounts on a daily basis because they've got nothing better to do. So sometimes, obviously, as Colin says, you know, we've got to cleanse the brand or whatever, but a lot of it as well is to do these things for ourselves as a club and move on, you know, just without worrying about these outside factors.
Yeah, I mean, Colin's right in terms of, I would agree certainly with Colin in terms of, you know, there have been issues recently. Look, you're right, in Scotland, you know, us getting a new website, changing our badge, bringing out a new strip, signing a deal with Castor, it's not going to make the slightest difference to, you know, supporters of Hibs or Dundee United or Motherwell about how they think of us. Okay, it's not going to make the slightest difference. So none of that's for them. All of this is for us. It's for our support. It's done for ourselves. But beyond that, in terms of dealing with the media, in terms of you know, dealing with football supporters outside of our natural hinterland, you know, the neutrals, you know, the guys who are from other countries or other parts of the United Kingdom or North America or whatever, who would then view Scottish football and see clubs there, I think it certainly helps give an impression of modernity. And when you're 148 years old, you know, when so much of what's important to Rangers in terms of their support is, as Colin says, and as he said earlier on, it's so tied in with our history. It's so tied in with the fact that you know, we've been around for so long. I mean, anybody who comes to Glasgow, any friends of mine that come to Glasgow for the first time, I take them to see Ibrox, because the main stand at Ibrox is a stunning building, absolutely stunning building, and people are genuinely, wow, look at that, you know, and it plays into who we are. And if you know, well, the two of you know this, if you go into Ibrox and see Ibrox, the main stand, if you ever get a chance to go in those main doors and look at it, it's incredible. I mean, the place is like a museum, and so much of that is tied in with our identity. So it's quite difficult when you're as old as we are, when tradition and how things are done and the traditions that we have as a club and as a support, and these things are important to us, and I think they are to almost every football club. So to try and also then give the feeling of modernity, of this feeling of moving forward, it's a difficult balance. So I think they did have to do it. I think you're right. I think this is probably being done A for ourselves, for our own support, and B for people, you know, outside of Scotland, outside of where you know, people, you know, would be fussed either way about a Scottish team. You know, the people who are thinking of maybe buying a second strip of another team because, you know, they quite like the colour blue. You know, it's that type of thing, and I think it's all being done around that as the world becomes a smaller place. And I think that's the right thing. I think that's the right strategy. That makes a lot of sense to me. That's the way the world is going, and good luck to them.
Well, moving on the pitch, there was a bit of movement this week as well. Rangers playing their first pre-season game, which seems a bit odd in the context of the world at the moment. It's been a very strange few months, but yeah. So behind closed doors game with Hamilton. Hamilton scored first, and then Calvin Bassey and Alfredo Morelos both scored either side of half time in a 2-1 victory. Colin, as I touched on there, how strange has this past few months been? But it's also good to have that normality. I mean, that was the first time I think I've read a full match report on a single game for a long time, and it was just good to get that sense of normality back through the week there.
I've got to be honest, David, I'm still kind of struggling with it a wee bit. Given everything that's going on, it just still feels all a bit surreal, and it feels strange to me looking at I'm looking at the calendar now, and it's the 12th of July, and we're 3 weeks away for the season kicking off, and it doesn't feel like that to me. It just still all feels a bit strange, and that full sense of normality still hasn't come back. And even the games down in England, we were talking about this before we came on air, I genuinely don't think they've helped, because they just don't feel the same behind closed doors with no supporters there. So it was good to see Rangers back in action. Good to see Morelos getting the score sheet, Bassey getting the score sheet. But it feels to me that when Rangers come back, they come back a bit earlier than this. And you've got the European games, and the actual domestic stuff is still maybe 4 or 5 weeks away. So all this still feels quite surreal. I don't feel like a football supporter whose team is going to take to the park in anger in 3 weeks' time. It still feels like we're in some sort of lockdown. I don't know how it's going to feel watching Rangers behind closed doors. I'm hoping it'll inject the interest in me, but I do find the games. The only sensation, the only thing I get from watching these games now down in England is a desire to go back to play fives again. All it does is remind me, I'm gagging on a game of football. I don't get anything about watching the game, or because we know supporters there, it just seems. I think there's about a 10-15% drop off in the tempo and how players go at it. So it's good to see Rangers coming back. I was on the Rangers website a couple of weeks ago, renewing my season tickets and trying to sign up to this MyJers thing, which is still ongoing. There's wee signals, but I think just the situation that we're still in detracts from that. I'm still sitting in my kitchen every day working from home. There's so many things that don't feel normal. I find it hard to focus on what's happening with Rangers now, because even that doesn't feel normal. You're watching the players behind closed doors at Murray Park, guys on the bench with face masks and all the rest of it. So it just feels odd to me, and it's surreal, and it doesn't feel how it normally feels. I'm struggling to kind of get into the mood. I must admit.
And obviously, following on from the game through the week, there's an announcement that there'll be a pre-season tournament we're taking part in. We'll play Lyon in France on the 16th, Nice in France on the 18th, and then Motherwell on the 22nd, Ibrox, and Coventry City on the 25th, Ibrox. John, that's quite welcoming news to know we're going to get 4 games in before the start of the season. Certainly with Aberdeen coming up on the 1st of August.
Yeah, the trip to France caught me unawares. I just assumed it would be games against Yoker Athletic and Benburb that would be organising before the season started. I didn't think there'd be any chance of travel. When I first saw it, I thought we were playing Celtic in France. When I saw the tournament being kind of advertised, I thought, hang on, are we playing Celtic in a pre-season tournament in France? Do the French know what they're doing? But I see we're not. It's a slightly odd thing. We're both playing, is it Nice and Lyon? We both play them, but we don't play each other, as I understand it. So, that'll be interesting. Certainly, football clubs seem to like to get the team away, the squad away, away from their homes, away from their kind of natural environment, in a hotel, and I guess they do some sort of, or they feel this brings some sort of team bonding. So I guess that's why we're doing it. And, you know, Nice and Lyon will be a decent standard, probably both better than pretty much every other team in Scotland. So, you know, a step up from Hamilton and Motherwell and Coventry City. So from that perspective, it's probably quite welcome. Yeah, I mean, I was surprised. Unlike Colin, I'm looking forward to football. I don't really care who wins in England. You know, when I can watch any two teams playing football and enjoy it for what it is. If I don't have a dog in the fight, and I don't have a dog in the fight in England, I don't really mind who wins games in England. The teams I like down there change with the managers they've got and the players they've got. So I'm fairly dispassionate about watching it. I haven't seen too much. What I have seen has been very odd. The one thing, if anyone was in any doubt, and Colin and I have spoken about this before, but if anyone was any doubt about what football actually is, it's for the supporters. You know, when you don't have people at those matches, the matches don't seem to count. So although I'm a bit some trepidation about the season in terms of there being no support there and just what that will be like, I am looking forward to the season starting. As we said off air, the English season is more or less finished. You know, there's still a bit to play for in terms of relegation and a bit to play for in terms of, you know, who'll get Europeans places. But the important thing is sorted. The league's won, pretty much won before they came back after the lockdown. It does feel like quite a few clubs there are just going through the motions. You expect that won't be the case in Scotland. It's a new season. It's starting again. You know, clubs won't be going through the motions. It will be interesting to see how playing in front of no supporters affects teams. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny, but there are obviously teams in the Scottish League that are used to playing in front of pretty small crowds. You know, so does that give them an advantage? You know, will this put clubs like Rangers at a disadvantage, who are used to having a big support home and away backing them? I don't know. It's been interesting watching English and German as well in football on TV when the team scores, and you know, it's like the 1930s. The players just kind of shake hands and run back to the halfway line. You know, and you realise how much the players feed off the energy of the crowd when it's normally there, and you see that with goals, you see that with near misses. So I am looking forward to it. I'm interested in this pre-season tournament. I don't know what stage the French league will be at by then. I don't know what stage these teams will be at, but it will certainly be a chance for Gerrard to get the squad away, put them through their paces, a couple of games against decent opposition, you would suspect, in pretty good weather. Try and get this, you know, the team ethic, try and get them bonded, try and get them ready for the new season. It doesn't strike me as being a bad idea. I hope supporters don't follow them. I hope that doesn't happen. You know, the club have, I think, made it fairly clear they don't want them to. I think both Lyon and Nice have made it clear that there will be no provision for supporters, and certainly not for supporters from Scotland. So I'm hoping supporters don't go over. But, you know, I think we all know guys who go to every game, you know, for whom going to see Rangers is a very important part of their life. And I suspect there will be some who will be trying to figure out if there's a way of getting there to see these games. So perhaps a slight concern over that. But all that, no, you know, I am now ready. I'm now looking forward to the season starting, and hopefully getting my mojo back in terms of football. And, you know, I long ago gave up playing five-a-sides. I wasn't very good when I could play, and I definitely can't play now. So watching football is all that's left for me.
I think I fancy that Colin, for as much as he's saying he won't be up for it, will definitely have the knot in his stomach the day of the Pittodrie trip. And I think I'll be the same. And as you say, John, I mean, even given the crazy situation we're in, it is different when it is your team that's playing, and especially with what's riding on, you know, this season coming up.
Big season coming up.
That makes it, for me, when that kick-off happens at Pittodrie and at the start of next month, that's there can be no thoughts to, worries over the behind closed doors thing. And I think it's going to have to be a case of, getting on with it. And speaking of which, we've obviously made a couple of signings in the close season so far, bringing in Calvin Bassey and John McLaughlin, Yanis Hadji on a permanent deal. We've also lost a few, obviously Nikola Katic to injury, Matt Holster left, Jake Hastie's gone out on loan. Colin, would you like to see some more business done before even perhaps the trip to France? Do you think that's needed? We need maybe a signing this week, or where do we need to strengthen before the start of the season?
I do think we need to strengthen. I don't think there's any doubt about that. We spoke about this last week on the show because we came on air, the news came out about Katic. Now, Stevie was on last week and he sort of felt we didn't need to go into the market for a centre half. I'd probably slightly disagree with that. I would have argued that before Katic was injured, we maybe needed to go in for another centre half. I just think Rangers are still lacking a spine. I think we need a proper, solid, no messing centre half. Someone in the centre of the park that's the same, that bosses that part of the area, and a 20-25 goals a season striker now. And I know folk will say we've got Morelos, but we've seen in the past that he can be up and he can be down. When he's on form, he's almost unplayable, and the boys are a joy to watch at times. I mean, just before Christmas, he was unstoppable. Especially in some of these goals in Europe were phenomenal. But he came back and it just didn't look the same player after the break. There's a lot of stuff going on off the field, and he just strikes me as the type of player that when it's not going for him, he's not someone that sort of plays through it. He kind of starts becoming a bit petulant, and I think Rangers need more than that. And I'm not trying to be hard on Morelos, I'm not trying to be hard on the boy, but I think we need a spine, a solid spine that will lead this team through the season. So yeah, I do think we need to do a bit of business. Whether it will happen this week, I don't know. It tends to be now. I mean, it used to be, before the transfer windows and all that kind of thing, you just sign players as and when you needed them. Now it seems to be teams go into the start of the season fairly relaxed, and then a month in, when the window closes, they run about and do all their business then. So if there is any movement this week, I don't think it'll be a huge amount, maybe one in or something like that. I don't know. I think you'll start to see the squad take shape the closer we get to the transfer window, because that seems to be the way of it these days. But in terms of do we need to bring players in, absolutely. I still think, I've heard people saying we need a right winger, and the fullback positions are up for grabs as well, because there's talk that Tavernier could be on the move, and obviously there was interest in Barisic as well. So it's a lot of the business that we'll do will probably be dependent on who goes the other way. But at the moment, as I said, I think we need a spine. I just don't think we have that at the moment. We need guys that, when the chips are down and we're really up against it, they'll get us over the line. And I think that's just what Rangers lack at the moment. We're a good team, but we look a wee bit fragile at times when the pressure comes on us a wee bit, and I think that we need to deal with that.
Just on that point, Colin, I'll come back to you on this. Last season, I felt that in a few of the games, there was one man we could have had in the team that ended up going out on loan, who, in my opinion, in many of the games last season when we needed someone to close the game off for us, would have been Ross McCrory. And I'm a massive fan of his, and I think that in the past he has shown himself to be a really mature young guy who is probably his best positions in that anchor position in the midfield. Is he someone that should have more of a part to play in the new season?
Well, based on his performances, you would argue he's made a case. I'm sure I read a stat a while ago that every game he started against Celtic, Rangers have won. So that shows you the level that the boy can play at. I think he's of an age now where you maybe need to look at, he's either coming into the squad or coming into the side, or you're looking. I don't know if another loan move would suit him. and what you would get from that. I think the time is coming. I think it's the same with Greg Docherty as well. There's boys that have been out on loan a couple of times now. It's just like, well, what are we doing with these guys? Are they going to get a chance to stake a claim in the team, or are they going elsewhere? I think McCrory's good enough, I must admit, and I think the boy was a wee bit unlucky in terms of getting put out on loan and all the rest of it. So is there room for him to come in? Is there an opportunity? I think there is. But it's not me that picks the team, and it's up to Steven Gerrard. If he doesn't think the boy's good enough, then I suppose we'll see that, and he'll maybe get moved out and loan again, or put out permanently. But I'm with you. I think that the boy could do a job, especially in that, just sitting in front of the back four. That seems to be his best position. So I'm with you. I think he could come in and do a job.
What are your thoughts on that, John? Because I think McCrory's the kind of guy that maybe splits opinion among some of the sport, but there seems to be a general consensus that he is good enough for the team. And we've not been a club that in the past 10 years or so have a great record for bringing young players through, and he's been one that's really impressed me on a consistent basis. Where do you stand on McCrory?
There was games last season where we struggled physically. I'm thinking the games against Hearts, games against Hamilton, where I thought physically we were, I would say we were being bullied, but I think there was a physicality to those games that we struggled in. And I think there are times Rangers need players like McCrory, players like Docherty. I think there are times where you need to win the fight before you can win the match. So I agree with Colin. If he isn't going to get in the first team this season, then we might as well sell him. Now, I don't know if there would be a queue of teams, but he was playing for Portsmouth, I think, League One, I think, last season. So I think he managed to. I think he was playing fullback. I think I read he was playing fullback for them rather than midfield, though. But he came in as a centre half, and I don't think he's a centre half. I haven't seen him play at centre half for a wee while, but I don't think he's a centre half. I don't know if I agree with Colin that we need to go and buy another centre half. I think we've got three pretty good centre halves. Our defensive record last season actually was excellent. Our defensive record was fine last season. We conceded exactly the same amount of goals as Celtic last season, but we didn't score as many. They outscored us quite significantly, and that for me is where we need to strengthen the team. I think Colin's right in terms of a spine. I don't think McCrory's the answer to that problem. I don't think Docherty's the answer to that problem. We need midfielders who will chip in more goals than our midfielders are currently, and we need more options up front, because if Morelos goes off the boil like he did, or if he goes away, if he's suspended, or he's maybe away in international duty or whatever, I'm not sure we can just rely on Defoe. We need another one. There's talk of this guy Dykes from Livingston. Perhaps, I guess he would be an option. He's a different type of player. He certainly scored goals at SPFL level. But we need more goals in our team. And that, for me, is the challenge this season. That was the difference between Celtic and Rangers last season. They scored more goals than us.
How much pressure then, John, is on, Ryan Kent and Yanis Hadji next season? How much, considering, the outlay, over 10 million combined for the two of them? That's a big outlay. So how much pressure is on them? Big
outlay for two young players. Neither of them have a lot of experience. Kent, I think Kent will become a good player. I actually think he'll have a better season. If he can stay clear of injury, I think he'll have a better season. I think he ended up coming to us a little late in the season. He probably missed pre-season with us. He showed what he can do in flashes, but he wasn't consistent. He's a big game player, and he reminds me a wee bit of Peter Lovenkrantz, and I don't mean that in style. I don't mean he reminds me of him in style. I just mean he's one of these players that he seems to like playing against Celtic. He seems to like playing the European matches. But, I'm not sure he's always there in some of the other games when you're up against a 10-man defence and they're sitting deep and they're cutting the space. And that's when you need a player like Hadji. That's when you need a player like Kent. You need these guys to unlock those defences, to just give you that bit of magic. and that we missed that last season. So there's a lot of pressure on them this season. The management team clearly feel that both of those guys are going to deliver that. Hadji, again, I just never felt we saw enough of him to make a full judgment call. He clearly has ability. That memorable game, the memorable European game where when he came on, he certainly proved to be the catalyst and change. But I didn't see enough of him to know whether he can do that consistently. I didn't see enough of him to know whether he is the guy to come on and get you points at Inverness when you're struggling to break them down, or get you points at Hamilton when you're struggling to break them down. But he should be, because two-footed player, very creative player. He is the kind of player that we need. But we need goals. Whether they come from midfield, whether they come from forwards, I don't know. But we need more goals. Defensively, I actually think we're more sound than we give ourselves credit for. We have 3 centre halves. The young lad Mayo, he's coming through. I see him training with the first team. If he's our 4th choice centre half, I would be quite comfortable going into the season like that. I wouldn't be worried about that, but I'll be nervous if we haven't strengthened elsewhere. Just the lad Bassey, Calvin Bassey, is that his name? Where does he play? I thought he was a fullback, but I see he scored at the weekend, the Hamilton game, and both Barisic and Tavernier were playing. So where does he play?
I think he can play left back or centre back.
Yeah.
So where were we playing him? Did we play him at centre half? Or did we play him at left back and then bring on Barisic, or does anyone know?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I was curious when I saw that both Barisic and Tav played, and so did Bassey, and I was like, I wonder if we played him. What was the formation? What were we trying out there?
You put his bang on the spot there, though, John.
Well, I didn't put that in the agenda. I really should have, boys. Come on, lads, I expect you two to do your homework before coming on with an old timer like me.
Oh, I was up a hill with a shocking pair of shorts one day, so I never had time.
That's it. And David's just been released from the drunk tank, so fair enough.
But no, I mean that is possibly the thinking behind bringing him in, that someone that can play either position, because that's probably something we need. But Colin, I'm going to just mention something briefly, because I quite like perplexing you with coronavirus related stats and things like that. But the draw was made for the quarterfinals of the Europa League through the week, which again, like the new badge, caught me completely by surprise. But we'll play Inter or Getafe once we've obviously beat Leverkusen away 3-0 on the 5th of August. That was a strange thing to be involved in.
I know, it's bizarre to think that it's July and we're still in Europe. You know what I mean? Normally, if we're in Europe in July, it's day one. You know what I mean? It was a wee reminder that these things are still bubbling away. I mean, Leverkusen, it's unlikely, and you would probably have to suggest that the tie's gone. But I think Leverkusen have found things a bit tricky since they've started back in Germany. So you never know. If we get the first goal and there's no fans, so you're as well just going for it. So you never know. You never know. We might get a wee tie against Inter Milan, but it'll be behind closed doors again. We've played them behind closed doors a number of years back. So it's bizarre. It really is, and it's as I said earlier on, it's hard to. Well, I'm finding it hard to get properly into it, because there's just so many things, so many plates in the air. I mean, the Scottish Cup's still rumbling on. You know what I mean? I mean, that's the biggest farce ever. You've got Hearts, who are in the middle of a court case, who could be relegated and lose all their players, and they're going to take on, Celtic in a semi-final. Where the sporting integrity is in that, I don't know, but it's all so much up in the air because of the current situation, that, as you say, every now and again something comes out and you're like, oh Christ, didn't know that was still going on. The Champions League's still rumbling on. It's totally bizarre. And the sooner we're at it, the better. The sooner we're back in grounds and there's a wee bit of normality, the happier I'll be.
Well, John, you mentioned nostalgia earlier in reference to the badge, but obviously through the week it was the 25th anniversary of Gazza signing for Rangers. Probably one of the most, well, arguably the most high-profile signing in the club's history. And in his time, he won 2 league titles, a Scottish Cup and a League Cup. Played 104 times for the club, scored 39 goals. What are your memories of Paul Gascoigne in the Rangers jersey?
I lived in Australia when we signed Paul Gascoigne, so my memories of our signing Paul Gascoigne were an English guy that I was sharing the house with, a Nottingham Forest fan, saying to me that he'd been speaking to someone at home and that Rangers had signed Paul Gascoigne, and I didn't like him. I didn't like Paul Gascoigne. This is a terrible thing to admit. Before we signed Paul Gascoigne, I just thought he was a loudmouth English git. He just annoyed me. Bleached blonde hair. He was just and I didn't like him. He came. The only time I'd ever seen him play live was at a pre-season friendly when he was playing for Spurs, and he came and Ian Ferguson gave him a really hard time during the match. And Gascoigne lost his temper a couple of times. And said some fairly undignified things about Ferguson after the match. I remember him saying, he said, "Oh, who is the boy? I made him famous." And I think, arrogant tosser. And I really didn't like Paul Gascoigne. So when we signed him, I was probably one of the few people in the Rangers support who was a bit nonplussed about it. But it was interesting. I used to get there was a when I lived in Australia at that time. There was the Daily Record had an international edition. As odd as that may sound now, but they had an international edition that came out once a week, and it had basically they kind of put together all their kind of big stories. But the big thing in it was Scottish football, was Scottish sport and particularly football. And I remember getting it and seeing these photographs and teenage boys outside Ibrox who dyed their hair, peroxide on their hair to look like them, and clearly there was some sort of Gazza mania going on in Glasgow, and that was quite interesting. And obviously he was as high profile a player. Certainly he was the most high profile British player at the time, but arguably he was probably as high profile as any player in Europe at that point. We'd signed him from CRA, which was the best league in Europe at that time and had been for a decade or more. And he was another statement of intent from David Murray and Walter Smith at that time. He gave us some fantastic memories. Have you read the Hunter Davis biography of Gascoigne? I don't know if either of you have read that. It's worth reading. It's worth actually.
No, I've not read it, John.
It's an interesting. It's an authorised biography, so there's. But it's still quite interesting. He's fairly honest in it. I mean, but one of the things I hadn't realised was, I don't know if you guys knew this, but early on he received death threats purportedly from the IRA. Now, I suspect they probably weren't from the IRA, but they had code words. So they had the correct code words. So the police had to take them seriously, and Gascoigne had to take them seriously. And Gascoigne was rightly very, very alarmed. Now, I don't think that made the media. I don't. As I said, I live in Australia, so it wasn't. I wasn't seeing the media, and it wasn't like today where everybody's connected to everything 24 hours a day. Maybe you guys will remember better. But he was facing things like that. He was facing, there was a real backlash against Gascoigne. I mean, I said, I admitted there, I didn't particularly like Gascoigne before we signed him. Well, lots of people didn't like Gascoigne. He was a very polarising personality, and certainly the fans of other clubs in Scotland didn't like him, and that was fairly clear fairly early on. Gascoigne was charged with rape when he was at Rangers. The charges were dropped. There was no evidence. It turned out to be entirely spurious, but he had to go down to England to answer charges. I mean, there was all sorts of things going on with Gascoigne when he was at our club that I never even knew about. I mean, you heard of some of them, but there was stuff going on that you never even knew about. He clearly had demons. That book, I think we already know that. You see that today. He was clearly wrestling with demons. But when he got on that football pitch, what a player he was. I remember there was a goal. It must have been would it have been at Parkhead when they were rebuilding or was it at Hampden when they were rebuilding? I can't remember. It was a game against Celtic where he kind of played. He kind of picked the ball up kind of halfway in a break, breaking out from defence, scoring away against them when he just looked magnificent. There's the other one where Celtic, do they hit the post and then he breaks up the field? He gets the ball,
John
breaks up the
Hughes
field.
hit the bar.
That's right, hit the bar, and he scores the diving header to win the match for us, or seal the match. And of course, there's the final game of the season against Aberdeen where he scores the hat trick, where he was just, he was a genius. So my memories of him are probably similar to other people's, in that when you saw him on a football pitch, he was incredible to watch. He was, just a sublime football player. He was clearly a big personality. He seems to have been popular with the players, despite, being a liability at times. I suppose the downside, he didn't help us do anything that we weren't doing before he came. And what I mean by that is, he didn't seem to help us push on in Europe. I suspect that, we were simply not playing European teams the way we needed to play them. Walter Smith learned that, and you saw second time round when he came back, he had figured out how we needed to play in Europe and managed to get some success from playing it a different way. But at that time, we tried to go toe-to-toe with guys like Laudrup and Gascoigne in our team, and frankly, we were tactically naive at times. I remember being very angry at Gascoigne when he gets sent off. Was it Dortmund?
He got sent off a couple of times. He got sent off in Bucharest as well.
Was it? I remember
he got sent off in Dortmund, and I'm sure he got sent off in Bucharest.
I remember furious with him getting sent off in that game because it was a game we could have won. At that time we were able to go toe to toe with German clubs. So his legacy, that scares the life out of me. I think it was 25 years ago. But I was fortunate. I returned from Australia end of that year, so I did get to see most of Gascoigne's time in Glasgow. He certainly lifted the club's profile, and he gave us some fabulous times. And I'm sorry to see the way he is now. I hope he's managed to get some help, and I hope he's managed to find some happiness and some contentment in his life, because he certainly looks a troubled individual. But when he was on that football pitch, he was a joy to watch, and he certainly brought excitement. David Murray was very good at that. David Murray understood the value of that, big summer signing, of the box office that brought, how it shifted jerseys, how it just generated interest. And he was always quite good at doing that. And Gascoigne was probably the pinnacle of that for David Murray. Gascoigne was probably the biggest signing that he could have made during his time. I would probably say that Maurice Johnston was a bigger signing and a more significant signing in many, many ways. But Gascoigne was probably the bigger name, and the signing that probably made quite a number of people outside of Scotland stand up and take notice and say, "Wow, that's the club to be reckoned with."
So, Colin, you're standing outside Ibrox. Your hair's dyed peroxide blonde.
Wasn't he?
But no, we've discussed 9 in a row years. Obviously before my time, but my dad and I even have discussed Gascoigne umpteen times over the years in that full team. But for you, you would have been in your teenage years when he signed?
I was 95. I was 22.
So that'd have been like an exciting time, I suppose, in your life, but also.
Well, I was a bit like John. I didn't like Gascoigne. I was there at Ibrox the day Ian Ferguson had his rammy with him. But that was a day everybody came out to see Maurice Johnston, playing Spurs in a friendly, and Ferguson actually handed him his arse in a plate that day. Ferguson totally outplayed him, and it was quite a niggly game. There was a few sort of incidents throughout it. It wasn't played in the manner of a friendly, and I didn't like him from that. His tackles in the FA Cup final, especially the first one, were shocking. I can remember when he signed for Lazio, I was actually on holiday in Spain with all my mates, and when he arrived in Lazio, he just looked like a lagerlout. And I can remember the front page of one of the papers, the Sun or the Star. It was like, he's fat, he's round, is he worth £5 million? And and then he got another bad injury in Lazio, and he just, I could never deny the boy's ability, but he just seemed, the baggage was too much. So I wasn't overly keen. When I heard Rangers were interested, I wasn't overly keen. But you have to agree with John. Once he came, it just lifted it to another level. I always preferred Laudrup. I must admit, I was more of a Laudrup man. But I was there. I was at Celtic Park the day. I wasn't going to see Rangers a huge amount at that time, but because of my work, I was working a lot of Saturdays at the time. But I managed to get a ticket for the Coca-Cola Cup final against Hearts. And we beat them 4-3. Neil McCann gave Craig Moore an absolute doing that day. And McCoist and Gascoigne had a fight just before half time. Rangers were 2-0 up, and Hearts brought it back to 2 each. And McCoist and Gascoigne had this fight on the park. The two of them were sort of manhandling one another. And in the second half, Gascoigne came out and just dominated the game and scored 2 absolute corkers. You know what I mean? So in terms of being at a game, that's probably my best memory of him. But obviously, as John said, he scored that hat trick against Aberdeen that won us 8 in a row. He scored goals against Celtic. I think he's right. He didn't quite do it in Europe. It was Amsterdam, another game he got sent off, and he got sent off against Ajax. He never kicked us on in that level. But John's saying there that he was the best signing, or the biggest name signing of the club. I would say he's the biggest name signing in Scottish football. You know what I mean? You could argue that Gascoigne's career, if it had gone to plan, if he hadn't had these stupid injuries, if he wasn't getting involved in the stuff he was getting involved with off the park, then you could make a strong argument to say that he would never have come near Rangers. You know what I mean? I think when he was coming back for Lazio, I don't think your Man Uniteds or that were interested in him, because I just think they felt, there was too much baggage there. So we reaped the benefit of that, on the park, but obviously off it, he came with a bit of baggage. And I agree with John. When you see him now, you can maybe understand why he's behaving like that, because he's obviously a guy that's got a lot of mental problems, and it's sad to see. It's sad to see somebody that had so much ability, and it was obviously at football that was his escapism. That's where all his demons went away, and without it, he just looks a shell of a man, and it's really sad to see.
Just what you're saying there about, sorry, David, I'm cutting across here. Just what you're saying there about Man United, possibly not wanting him. Alex Ferguson's on record as saying his one of his biggest regrets is that he never got to manage Gascoigne. Apparently, he tried to sign him 3 times.
Yeah, but was that not before he went to Italy though?
No, I think he tried to sign him. He tried to sign him from Lazio as well. He thought that he thought he was the guy to sort Gascoigne.
To sort him out, yeah.
That his style of management. And his ability to get inside people's heads and the siege mentality he always made would be the making of Gascoigne, that he could turn Gascoigne into the player that everybody knew he could be. I think Man United made a significant overture to Gascoigne. We could compete with Man United at that time. That's the crazy thing. We could compete with just about anybody at that time.
I know. It's when I tell my boy these stories, because we were the biggest club in Britain at one point. You know Absolutely. What I mean? He just looks at me as if I'm on the glue. and it's then you realise. I mean, I know you can say that Rangers have fallen quite a far height, but I mean the game has changed so much. That I mean, even if you take the events of 2012 at the picture, Rangers would, they were still tumbling down. That sort of status thing, because it's all about your Barcelonas and your Real Madrids and all that kind of thing now. So, but I mean, where we were at that point, it was, when you look back, it was frightening.
Well, obviously, Gascoigne was before my time. My only Gascoigne-related story, when I worked at the Kilmarnock Standard, I brought in some columns. One of which was a sort of fans column. The other one was the manager, actually, at the time, Alan Johnston. But the third was a referee column. And it just so happened that the local referee in charge of the sort of refereeing schools was Dougie Smith, who Gascoigne booked. on the pitch. It was him that did that. So obviously, when I had the meeting with Dougie, one of the first things I asked him, do you regret that? Because obviously he came across a bit of a tosser. But you will not be surprised to know it was a resounding no. He did not regret it because it was a respect thing. So that was quite interesting. But no, he didn't regret that one bit. That was quite interesting. But yeah, I mean, some great memories there. And I think for every Rangers fan, whatever age, I'd only been 2 when he signed.
Okay.
Two.
I know.
Jesus, what am I even doing in this podcast anymore?
Can I just say I've got a kind of strange Gazza related story. I used to work for Alex Smith. Used to be the Aberdeen manager and Dundee United manager, and he was manager at Clyde at the time that Gascoigne signing. Clyde arranged a behind closed door game. So Alec arranged for my mate and me to go through. So we went in, Gascoigne was playing. So we're sitting there, I was sitting next to Steve Archibald. Hate to be a name dropper, but he was sitting right next to me. And the main memory I have of the game is I ran over a rabbit when I was driving it to Cumbernauld to watch the game. And I was on this wee back road and I hit this rabbit. And my mate's like, what happened there? I says, I think I hit something. And I looked through and the rabbit was still up and about. I thought, all right, I've just obviously went right over the top, it's fine. So I went out to see if it was okay, and I'd flattened its hind legs. So it was sort of dragging itself across the road, right? And I was like, oh no, what did I do? So I was trying to pick it up. I was going to take it to a vet. And this work, he got out of a van. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm going to save this rabbit. He's like, just wring its neck. And I just sort of looked at him as if, wring its neck? Oh, I can't do that. And he's like, away you go. And he's just like, tossed it over a fence, and I get back in the car like, oh man, I've just ran over a rabbit. And that's my I don't remember Gascoigne's performance that night. All I remember is I killed a poor bunny.
Well, that's us. We can add the SSPCA and PETA to the list of organisations that hate Rangers supporters now.
Need to a new badge is out next week. Just one final thing before we leave you. Obviously some sad news for another former Rangers player, Scott Nisbet, who is battling cancer at the moment, and there's been funds raised for to help him through a life-changing operation on his kidneys. There's a Just Giving page has been set up by a former players association. So it's on Just Giving campaign section. If you just search Scott Nisbet on there, if you'd like to donate. But I think it's safe to say the thoughts of everyone at Gersnet are with Scott and his family at the moment as he battles through that. And hopefully all goes well and the operation's a success. But yeah, I think that's all we'll have time for tonight. Run over a wee bit actually with so much to discuss. But thanks to Colin and John for joining me. It's been another good night. So thank you for listening, and please share on social media, get the word out about what we're doing here. Thanks and good night.